Welcome everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins where history, mistakes, and a little bit of luck combine to create treasures that turn ordinary pocket change into extraordinary fortunes. And today we are going to explore in depth the incredible story behind the 1972 no-mint Mark 1-cent coin. A Lincoln penny that at first glance looks like just another common cent you might find jangling around in your change jar or lying unnoticed on the sidewalk, but in reality some specific examples of this coin have commanded values reaching as high as $400,000 because of the unique errors, doubling, striking anomalies, and production mistakes that make them some of the most highly sought-after collectibles in the entire numismatic community. And by the time we reach the end of this journey you will understand not only what makes these pennies so spectacularly valuable but also why certain errors can transform a simple copper coin into a multimillion-dollar dream. And to begin with we need to set the scene because 1972 was a fascinating year in U.S. coinage, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents with no mint mark at the Philadelphia Mint, and within these mass-produced pieces a small fraction came out with unusual doubling errors on the obverse side, errors so dramatic that the word liberty, the date 1972, and the motto I in God we trust appear doubled to the naked eye without the need for magnification, and these dramatic double-die obverse errors have gone down in history as some of the boldest and most collectible mistakes in American coinage. And when you consider that coin collectors are always looking for pieces that stand out from the ordinary, the appeal of the 1972 double-die penny becomes clear. But what makes it even more fascinating is that not all doubling is created equal. Because in 1972 there were several different recognized varieties of doubling, with the most famous and valuable being the so-called 1972 double-die obverse number 1, which shows the most striking and easily identifiable doubling, so much so that even someone with little knowledge of coins could pick up one of these pennies and notice immediately that something unusual was going on. And when you add in the fact that these coins circulated for years without people realizing their rarity, many became worn down, scratched, and damaged, making pristine mint-state examples even scarcer and even more valuable. And it is these high-grade examples, often graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services, that can reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, including auction sales that shocked collectors and turned heads across the hobby. And the beauty of this story is that it shows how the tiniest mistake at the mint can have enormous consequences decades later. Because when the dies used to strike the coins were misaligned or improperly hubbed, the design features were imprinted twice at slightly different angles, creating the double look that makes this penny so famous. And in many ways the 1972 double-die penny represents the perfect storm of conditions for a valuable coin, because it is both rare and recognizable. Common enough that a lucky person might still discover one in circulation, but rare enough that serious collectors will pay enormous sums to secure one in their collections. And while the $400,000 figure is reserved for the most pristine examples, even moderately circulated coins can fetch hundreds or thousands of dollars. And this democratizes the excitement because virtually anyone could stumble upon one of these pennies in their spare change or tucked away in an old jar in the attic, and that possibility of discovery drives a frenzy of searching, which in turn drives awareness, which pushes up demand and therefore value, creating a cycle where each coin that comes to market becomes more eagerly contested than the last. But let's go deeper into the types of errors and mistakes that make the 1972 no-mint mark penny special. Because doubling is not the only factor, as striking anomalies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and even improper metal mixtures can add layers of uniqueness that collectors love. And for example, an off-center 1972 double-die penny could be valued exponentially higher because it combines two distinct errors, each desirable on its own but combined they create an extraordinary rarity. And similarly, a coin struck on the wrong planchet, say, struck on a dime planchet or on an undersized copper piece, would immediately become a showstopper. And in the world of rare coins, combinations of errors are like gold, because they represent accidents upon accidents, and each layer of mistake multiplies rarity and thus value. And when you think about how coins are mass-produced by the millions with machines designed for consistency, it is almost magical that such glaring mistakes slip through the cracks, and yet they do. And when they do, they become legendary. And one of the fascinating aspects about the 1972 double-die penny is the sheer boldness of the doubling, because many double-die coins from other years require magnification to see clearly. But in this case the doubling is dramatic enough that it almost looks like two separate sets of letters and numbers overlapping. And that eye appeal plays a huge role in the coin's desirability, because collectors want errors that are obvious, bold, and attractive rather than subtle and technical, and the 1972 penny delivers on all fronts. And let's not forget the historical context either, because in 1972 the Lincoln cent was still struck in a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a reddish-brown appearance that can develop stunning toning over time. And coins that survive with their original bright red luster, untouched by circulation or fingerprints, are especially prized, because the redder the coin, the more eye-catching it is and the more it commands at auction. And when you combine a flawless surface with dramatic doubling, you get a numismatic masterpiece. And now consider how grading services like PCGS and NGC contribute to this story, because collectors rely heavily on the third-party validation of authenticity and grade. And a 1972 double-die penny graded MS67RD can shatter records, while one graded only VF20 might be worth hundreds instead, showing how condition is everything in the coin world. And the fact that only a handful of these coins have ever achieved such lofty grades explains why the highest prices paid are so astronomical, because rarity plus condition equals value. And yet the intrigue does not stop there, because the US Mint actually produced several different double-die varieties in 1972, often labeled as DDO001 through DDO010, with varying degrees of doubling. And while the number one variety is by far the most famous and valuable, specialists in the field sometimes chase after the lesser varieties as well, because together they tell a story of how widespread the die hubbing issues were at the Philadelphia Mint during that year, and the existence of multiple varieties also adds an element of complexity and challenge for collectors, because identifying the precise variety requires careful study and knowledge, and this in turn fuels interest and demand, as people enjoy the hunt for these hidden gems. And when you think about it, the 1972 double-die penny represents everything exciting about coin collecting, from the thrill of discovery to the joy of owning a piece of history that few others possess, to the financial rewards of finding a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in change that cost only a cent to acquire. And it is this combination of history, rarity, and human error that gives coins their magic. But we should also consider how awareness of these coins has spread, because before the age of the internet many people had no idea what a double die was, and many extraordinary coins languished unnoticed in jars and collections. But as information spread, so did the demand, and now the 1972 penny is one of the most famous examples taught to beginners who want to learn how to spot errors, and its fame alone adds to its allure. Because a coin that is widely recognized is always easier to sell and attracts a larger pool of bidders. And this is why the 1972 double-die penny has cemented itself as one of the crown jewels of 20th century American numismatics. And if we dive even deeper into the psychology of value, it becomes clear that the appeal of coins like this is not just about money, because it is also about being part of a shared story, a community of collectors who value history, rarity, and the quirky mistakes that give coins personality. And that intangible allure drives prices just as much as rarity or condition, and the 1972 penny epitomizes this, because it is not merely an error. It is an icon, a symbol of what can happen when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. And let's imagine for a moment someone in 1972 receiving one of these pennies as change at a grocery store, having no idea that decades later it would be worth a house. And the idea that such treasures could be hiding in plain sight is what keeps collectors searching to this day. And while the chance of finding one in circulation today is slim, it is not zero, and that is enough to inspire countless people to keep checking their coins, hoping for that magical discovery. And every once in a while, someone does stumble upon one, and those stories spread like wildfire, reigniting the hunt all over again. And this cycle of hope, discovery, Next, 1975 no mint mark 1 cent USA coin. Return our focus to the extraordinary 1975 no mint mark USA 1 cent coin, a Lincoln penny that has stunned the numismatic community, with certain rare examples selling for as much as $900,000 because of errors, striking mistakes, die varieties, and unusual circumstances that transformed a common copper cent into an almost mythical collectible. And as with all great stories in the world of coins, we begin with the basics, because the 1975 Lincoln cent was minted in the millions at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use a mint mark at that time, meaning every cent produced there appears to have no distinguishing mint letter beneath the date. And while the vast majority of these 1975 pennies are worth only face value even today, hidden among them are rare examples with dramatic doubling errors, die clashes, off-center strikes, and other production mishaps that elevate their value into the hundreds of thousands. And this is where the adventure begins, because anyone could have one of these treasures tucked away in a forgotten coin jar, an old drawer, or even still circulating unnoticed in the pockets of everyday Americans. And the possibility that a simple penny could actually be worth nearly $1 million is what makes this particular coin so exciting to collectors and treasure hunters alike. And to fully understand why a 1975 no mint mark penny can be so valuable, we must dive deep into the errors and varieties that define its fame, because coins gain value through a combination of rarity, demand, condition, and above all uniqueness. And the uniqueness of the 1975 penny lies in its mistakes that slipped through the strict quality controls of the mint and found their way into circulation, where they lay dormant for years before being recognized for the treasures they truly are. Now, one of the most sought-after varieties is the 1975 doubled die obverse penny, a coin where the hubbing process created a dramatic doubling of the date, the word liberty, and the motto "I in God we trust." And when this doubling is bold enough to be seen with the naked eye, it becomes not only a conversation piece but also a numismatic superstar, because collectors love dramatic errors that do not require microscopes or magnifying glasses to appreciate. And the 1975 double die pennies are exactly that. Coins where the human eye immediately notices that something is different, that the numbers and letters appear as though they are doubled or shadowed, and this creates an immediate sense of rarity and intrigue. But the story does not end with doubled dies, because 1975 also saw examples of off-center strikes, where the coin was struck improperly so that only part of the design appears on the planchet while the rest is left blank, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, and whether the date remains visible, these coins can fetch staggering amounts, because the perfect off-center coin is one that is dramatically misaligned but still shows the date clearly, allowing collectors to confirm its year of issue. And when that year happens to be 1975, demand skyrockets, because few of these coins survived and even fewer in good condition. And then we also encounter die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghost-like impressions of the reverse design on the obverse side or vice versa. And when these clash marks appear on a 1975 penny, they create yet another variety that collectors drool over, because they represent visible mistakes, tangible evidence of minting accidents that were never supposed to leave the mint, and yet they did. And every such error carries with it a story, a tangible link to a moment in history when human error or machine malfunction created something unique. Adding to the mystique of the 1975 penny is its composition, because these coins were struck from the traditional 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc alloy, giving them a distinct reddish tone when new, and coins that survive today with full red luster are especially valuable, because copper tones quickly to brown over time, and a brilliant red uncirculated 1975-era coin is like a time capsule, preserved from the moment it left the press. And grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified only a handful of high-grade examples of certain error varieties, which is why those coins command jaw-dropping prices, sometimes approaching or exceeding the $900,000 figure, because when you combine extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, and pristine condition, you create the perfect storm for astronomical value. And this is why collectors constantly stress the importance of condition, because a rare error in poor condition might be worth thousands, but the same error in mint state can be worth hundreds of thousands. And when we talk about a $900,000 1975 penny, we are talking about the absolute best of the best coins that represent the pinnacle of survival, rarity, and desirability. But let us dig even deeper into the fascinating world of possibilities that make the 1975 no-mint mark penny so incredible, because apart from doubled dies, die clashes, and off-center strikes, there are also broad strikes, struck-through errors, cap dies, and wrong planchet strikes, each of which creates a one-of-a-kind piece. And for instance, a broad strike occurs when the coin is struck without the collar die that normally contains its shape, causing it to spread outward and appear wider and flatter than usual. And when a 1975 penny shows such an error, it becomes an instant rarity, while a struck-through error occurs when a foreign object such as grease, fabric, or even another coin fragment gets between the die and planchet during striking, leaving behind a bizarre impression on the finished coin, and collectors love these because they are unique. No two are ever exactly alike, and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin. And then we have cap die errors, where a coin sticks to a die and strikes subsequent coins, creating distorted and ghostly impressions. And if such an event happened with a 1975 penny, the resulting pieces would be numismatic wonders. And finally, there are wrong planchet errors, where a cent is accidentally struck on a dime planchet or foreign coin blank, creating a coin that is undersized, oddly weighted, and instantly recognizable as a major rarity. And when such an error is confirmed on a 1975 penny, it becomes a legend, because these types of wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics, often commanding prices equal to or greater than doubled die obverse varieties. The psychological factor also cannot be ignored, because part of the allure of the 1975 no-mint mark penny lies in the mystery. The knowledge that such treasures could be hiding in plain sight. And every collector who searches through rolls of pennies from the bank or examines the change from a grocery store is driven by the dream of discovering one of these incredible rarities, and that dream creates demand, and demand creates value, and value creates stories that echo through the collecting community, stories of lucky finds, record-breaking auctions, and the thrill of turning 1 cent into nearly $1 million. And this cycle of hope and reward is one of the most powerful forces in numismatics. And it ensures that coins like the 1975 no-mint mark penny will never be forgotten, because they embody the magic of the hobby, the idea that the next great treasure could be sitting right under your nose, unnoticed until the moment you decide to look closely. And while $900,000 is an extraordinary figure, it is not unrealistic when you consider the dynamics of the rare coin market. Because prices are driven not only by rarity and condition but also by competition. And when two or more wealthy collectors decide they must have the same coin, the bidding war can drive the price to unimaginable heights. And this has happened time and again in auctions, where common coins with unique errors or pristine condition have shattered expectations and set new records. And the 1975 penny is no different, because its fame, rarity, and beauty combine to make it the centerpiece of any collection, and collectors are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure such a prize. And that is why we see figures approaching the $1 million mark, because to the right person, owning the best example of a 1975 era penny is worth more than the money itself. It is about pride, legacy, and the joy of owning something truly irreplaceable. Now imagine the excitement of being the person who discovers such a coin, a simple penny picked up from the ground or pulled from a roll at the bank, only to realize that it is a rare double die obverse worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that kind of life-changing discovery is not just a fantasy, because it has happened before, and it will happen again, because these coins are out there, and although rare, they have a way of surfacing unexpectedly, reminding us all that treasures lie hidden in the most ordinary places, and this possibility fuels the entire community of coin hunters, who never stop searching because they know that every handful of change has the potential to conceal a miracle. And the 1975 penny embodies that hope better than almost any other coin of its era.